Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we're going to be getting a jump start on shade plants for my new shade garden, and we're going to be growing them from bare root. So in some of my recent videos, you saw me shopping for bare roots at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Costco, several different places. And I hope I'm done shopping for a little while, but I really need to get a jump start on some of these. Now, bare root is just a dormant root portion of a plant that is sent to you or you buy in a bag full of soil. And basically you plant that root, and from that root grows a brand new plant. These are often grown in plugs, so sometimes the roots are like really, really small. Sometimes it's a divided up perennial, so you have a larger, more prolific root. It really just depends. Typically, the less you pay, the smaller the root is. Now, there are many really great reasons to grow bare root. One of the first things is they're very cost effective. I mean, this one right here is Astilbe plants, and it's 2 roots, so 2 plants for $5.42. It's a very cost-effective way to add a lot of plants to your garden rather than going to buy the full-grown plants at the nursery. Bare roots also give you an opportunity to try some unusual varieties that might not necessarily be available within your particular nursery, such as something like these begonias. This is a Piketty pink and white tuberous begonia, very luxurious. The blooms are 4 to 8 inches wide, just absolutely beautiful and unusual. In all my years of shopping in nurseries, I've never seen any begonia like this there. So it does give you that opportunity for a little bit more unique and unusual varieties. Another thing is when you're planting up a bare root. Typically, if you're planting up a bare root, it's going to establish quicker in the ground than a plant that you purchase in a nursery pot from a nursery. Reason being is when you're planting the bare root in the ground, more of the root structure is exposed to the soil, allowing more roots to produce and grow naturally throughout it. Whereas a potted plant has already established a rooted system. Its main roots are protected already from soil, so it's a little bit hard for it to establish, harder for it to establish in a garden bed as opposed to starting from bare root. And then one of the other good things about bare roots is since the bare roots are exposed, it's easier to check them to see if they're healthy, if they have disease, or if they have any pest problems, since you can kind of see everything that's happening. I will say that I feel like learning about how to start bare roots is a process. And the process I'm going to show you today is how I've gotten the best results with my bare roots. We're going to go through a process of soaking them and then planting them up in a soil and compost mix within nursery containers to get them started. The reason I do this now, about 4 to 6 weeks prior to my last freeze, is it allows all these bare roots to really start putting on some more root growth and to kind of be in a really protected area while it is doing that. It's not having to battle all the elements. It also allows me to see what bare roots are going to make it and what bare roots aren't, because there's nothing worse than planting out this beautiful sweep of 5 new bare root plants and one right in the center doesn't make it, and then you have a massive gap. So this also allows me to control what I'm putting out in my gardening, making sure that everything is going to be, you can survive at that point. Okay, so we're going to talk about the different varieties that I'm starting today, and then we're going to go over the process of getting these planted up. We're going to go ahead and start with the begonia, since that's one I had talked about. So this particular variety is a Piketty pink and white. It's an upright, tender perennial. It's an annual in my area. It's tender perennials in like zones, I think 9 to 11. Everywhere else, it's considered an annual. Because of that, you can dig up its tubers and overwinter those inside, allow them to go dormant inside, and then replant them come spring. For this particular variety, it has 4 to 8 inch across semi-ruffled white flowers with bright pink petal tips. It's about 10 to 15 inches tall by 10 to 12 inches wide. It does need partial to full shade and really needs really good air circulation as well. It is considered deer and rabbit resistant, resistant, and it is considered toxic to animals as well. So it's something that's really important to remember. These begonia tubers, if you've grown for a couple of years, you can split this up and create more plants from it, which is great as well. All right, the next variety I'm starting is called Bleeding Heart Pink, and it's also known as Dicentra. And it's a timeless and classic shade perennial with arching stems of heart-shaped flowers that bloom each spring. It is considered deer-resistant, rabbit-resistant, excellent for cut flowers, and wonderful to grow in containers. It does need part shade to full shade, and it's about 24 to 36 inches tall by 24 to 36 inches wide. It is hardy in zones 2 through 8, but it is suitable to grow in zones 2 through 10. So hardy means it'll make it through the winter. Suitable means it will grow in your area, but most likely die off either during the hotness of your summer or the coldness of your winter. I'm really excited about this because, I mean, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. $30 in bare roots I've started, and I've got 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 plants for 30 bucks. It's a really good deal, especially when you're really wanting to start to fill in an area. Now, obviously, bare roots are going to take a little bit longer to become established and to be large, full-scale grown plants, but that's okay. I'd be willing to wait the time and save a little bit of money on the back end. Now, next I'm trying 2 varieties of Astilbe. The first one is called Chocolate Kiss, and it's just a very soft pink, just a very whimsical looking bloom. The second variety is called Astilbe Sunny Boy, and it has a little bit more of a purple magenta look to it. And Astilbe is known for long lasting blooms, plume-like flowers in soft shades of white, pink, purple, and red on tall, stiff stalks above airy foliage. It's perennial in zones 3 through 8, and it prefers partial to full shade. These particular varieties are about 18 to 24 inches by 18 to 24 inches. It does need plenty of water. It is not considered drought tolerant. The hotter it gets, the more water it's going to need. So I will have a drip system with drip irrigation straight to the base of this plant. Now, next I picked up a couple of varieties of Caladiums. The first variety I picked up is called Carolyn Wharton, and it has kind of a speckled or mottled look of green and pink and with red veining. Absolutely beautiful. And it is about 14 to 18 inches tall. And then the other variety is Candidum, and it is white with green veining, and it is about 12 to 24 inches tall. And Caladiums are shade loving and can handle sun. Can handle some sun. Sun tolerance varies between varieties, so you would literally have to find a variety that says it handles sun. It is considered tropical and won't survive winters except in zones 9 through 11. It's grown as an annual in zones 3 through 8. It says not to plant it outside until the soil is at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and can start inside 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost, which is what we're about to do. To achieve a bushier look, it does suggest putting 2 tubers together in the same hole if you want your caladiums to look more full. Okay, so those are the varieties we're going to start today. The first thing we need to do is we need to soak these roots. We need to wake them up. We need to rehydrate them and tell them it's time to wake up and start growing. They have been dormant at this point with minimal water. And so by going through this kind of soaking process, it's really going to jumpstart these roots. All right, I am going to put out my soil mat right now because I'm going to be working with water in my soil mat. Will protect from that. So let me get that, a couple of bowls going. Now I am doing separate bowls for each variety so that I don't forget by mixing them up and not know what I have. Okay, and I'm going to fill these bowls up with water. Now this water is going to be a little bit brown. Might have a little bit of a tint to it because I did just recently use this container to do fertilizer. My Alaskan fish fertilizer, so there's probably some remnants in there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start simply. We'll start with the caladium bulbs, and there's 5 caladium bulbs in each package. And basically I just take this and I put it off to the side like that, and I'll put the bowl on top of it. I'm going to dump out And these are your bulbs right here. Very simple. So we're just going to go ahead and plop these in. Now, I'm not going to be allowing these roots to soak forever and ever, maybe about 20 to 30 minutes tops. I think you could go up to an hour if you wanted as well. I don't like to soak more than that because it can cause damage. It can make the roots too moist and allow them to rot. Okay, here's the Carolyn Wharton. This one had an extra one in it. So I got 6 in that one. The next is the Bleeding Heart or Dicentra. And these roots are definitely ready to go. Let's kind of gently work because this is already putting off. There we go. Shoots. So these are all shoots right here that are wanting to grow. And then down here is the roots. So we're going to go ahead and just allow the root portion to sit in the water. And I'm trying to shake off the excess soil. There we go. It would be better if I have an extra bowl, a larger bowl, but it'll be fine. The next is the begonia tubers. We got 1, 2, 3. There we go. Next is the Astilbe Chocolate Kiss. Okay, let's see. So this is a little confusing because the roots and the new shoots are going up at the same direction. So we'll talk about that when we're planting. And then the last variety of Astilbe called Sunny Boy. It is nice to see some growth on these plants telling me that they are ready to go. All right, and while we're waiting, I've already got some soil in here and I'm using some of the soil in the packages as well. Some people would tell you don't use the soil in the packages because it might have disease and that kind of stuff. And I feel fine. Like, I'm not stressed about it. I don't think it smells like it has anything. I don't see anything wrong with it, so that works fine with me. I am going to add some compost into the soil. And mix this in to make sure we have some good fertilizer mixed in with our soil. And for most of these plants, I'm going to be using these quart-sized containers. I'm just going to go ahead and start filling them about halfway. We'll definitely do all of the caladium bulbs in these containers. Perhaps for the Bleeding Heart, those are a little bigger than I anticipated, so I will probably do gallon size for those. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with the caladium bulbs. I think that they should soak, them and the begonias should soak for the least amount of time. So a caladium bulb is not going to just be a perfectly round bulb where it's super easy to tell where to put the bulb in. I will say you'll see some kind of hairy root-like structures on the bottom, and then on the top it should be extremely bumpy with some points that almost look like they're starting to come out. This is the top, and then the roots are at the bottom like that. This is planted about 2 to 3 inches below the surface of the soil. So I'm going to go ahead and just tuck it down in here and then top it with some soil, and then we'll put it in a container and water all of them at the same time. So I'm looking at this again, I'm seeing most of the roots and stuff down here, and I'm seeing some pointy structures up here where it would send up leaves. Just like that. This one I feel like is a little harder. Let me see if I can shake it off a little bit. I'm going to go this way. The plant is smart. It will right itself. So if you end up putting it upside down, it's not the end of the world. You'll be okay. Okay, and then I'm just going to take these containers and fill up my tray. You could start these in like 4-inch containers if you wanted as well. I'm going to go ahead and pour in this excess water so as not to waste it and allow that to start soaking up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mix up some more compost and some more soil. Whenever I'm mixing up soil, I'm also trying to break up any like chunks or clumps of soil. Now you notice that I haven't put like fertilizer in here yet, like a synthetic fertilizer, organic fertilizer, anything like that. And that's because the roots don't really need it right this minute. But also if you put fertilizer directly on bare roots, a lot of times it might end up burning the bare roots a little bit. So this allows them to get started, and then when I plant them outside, I can add fertilizer when planting, and then I can also, once these really start growing, I can add the Alaskan fish emulsion fertilizer, which works really, really well too. Okay, the next one we're going to do are the begonia tubers, and these can be a little bit confusing too. They're almost like cup shaped. So this bottom part that's all rounded is the bottom, and this middle portion that's like almost like the inside of the cup is where you're going to have sprouts, and you can actually see some coming up. And these are planted about 1 to 2 inches below the surface of the soil. And I'm lucky because this makes it easier. I can kind of see already where we are starting to get growth points. See right there? It's a rounded portion down. We will go ahead and label those. Okay, next we've got the Astilbe bare roots, which I think was a little confusing because we've got all these bare roots going right here, but then we've got sprouts coming up. But if I kind of come in here gently and play with it a little bit, I can kind of see how the sprouts are going one particular direction and kind of spread out the roots a little bit. Now we want the crown of this plant to be about 1 to 2 inches below the ground. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here, my soil, fill it about 1/3 of the way, and then I'm going to kind of just nestle this guy down on its side. I'm not going to go fully upside down. I'm not going to go fully upright because I'm not super sure about the roots at this point. I know that these green stalks will reorient themselves. So by coming in here and planting it on the side, I'm giving the plant the opportunity to put its roots going whatever way it needs to go and to put its sprouts going whichever way it needs to go as well. Now the crown, I need to put a little bit more soil in here. Needs to be about 1 to 2 inches below the soil surface. So I'm just going to kind of shake because I don't want to like tamp down too much because I really want the soil to work amongst those roots. I'm going to go just like that. Now I know those sprouts are underneath, but they will reorient themselves. All right, so I've got this one filled up about halfway. Its roots are pretty massive, which is very exciting. So got a lot of roots going with the sprouts going at the same time. And so basically I'm going to do just like what we were talking about. I'm going to plant it on its side. That and allow the roots to resituate themselves. And that's a safe bet if you're unsure. If you can't tell, you can probably pretty much tell the side. So you can always plant it on the side and allow the plant to take its roots the right direction instead of putting the whole thing upside down. So I will say the Sunny Boy ones are a lot smaller. All right, and it's a lot easier to see the roots and to see the sprouts. But these sprouts are still going to end up under the soil at this point in time. Just coming in 1 to 2 inches below the surface. I do think that I could have started especially these Astilbe roots that are really big. And also I could have started those in a gallon-sized container as well. But I think they'll be okay. And then of course, if I feel like they're outgrowing the space, then I will go ahead and pot them up to the next level if need be. But I'm kind of just hoping to get these going and then pot them directly into the garden. Okay, and then for the bleeding hearts, I'm definitely going to start them in gallon-sized containers because these are much bigger root systems. And these roots are planted about 2 to 3 inches below the surface of the soil. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling about a third of the way. And then we do have the roots, and then you can obviously see the sprouts as well. I'm going to lean this just a little bit. And then I'm going to start working my soil in and around, supporting the root. And we are going to have some of these sprouts are going to be above the soil line. But not much. This root is much smaller than the other one. I do like being able to see some of the sprouts starting. And I think that's one of the beneficial things about buying your bare roots earlier in the season instead of after they've been sitting for a couple of months. And I know they're in clearance after they've been sitting, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're still alive. Your chances of them being alive are much better if you buy them earlier, at an earlier point in time. I don't think I'll be able to get both of these in. Let me see. Oh yes, I can get both of these in. Excellent. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this tray up pretty high with water and I really allow it to start soaking in. Because it is a lot of soil because these are larger containers. And this one's already got water in it as well. Okay, y'all, I actually have to run to a family dinner, but I'll come back and finish this afterwards. Okay, so it's actually the next day. We are having a really good time at family dinner night, and so I stayed longer. Okay, so what I've done is last night before bed is I added a lot of water to these trays, and this tray still has some water, but not much left. And this one is completely dry, which tells, and I filled this guy up a lot, which tells me this needs more water. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more. And I do water all of these from the base and allow them to soak up the water themselves instead of watering from the top and disturbing the soil and also compacting the soil by working that particular direction. So we have this whole tray is Caladiums, and this tray is a mix of Begonias, Astilbe, and Bleeding Heart, which I'm really excited about. All of these are doing great. Okay, so going forward, I have a few different options. I can leave these inside. I can put them under the grow lights. They don't need grow lights like right away, only when they start to actually sprout. And then inside it's about 68 to 70 degrees, which is a good temperature to get these all started. So I can leave them inside and let them start growing inside and then harden them off and move them to the outside. Or now that I have my greenhouse up, I can start these directly outside, just immediately take them out to the greenhouse, which means they would acclimate to the outside quicker. However, I'm a control freak, so I'm going to start these inside where I can pay better attention to them. If I put them outside, they need to be very, very much on their own at that point in time. So I feel better about starting them in here, make sure that I can control their moisture level. It is very important that when you're starting bare roots that you do not allow these bare roots to dry out. If they do dry out, they are definitely going to die off. At this point, I am going to keep them well watered, but I don't want to overwater them. They don't want to be sitting in water. So if the water that you put in the container is there after 24 hours, then you need to go ahead and dump that water out, whatever extra water is in there. But these will soak it up pretty quick. This is, these are big containers, so they've got a lot of water. They've got a lot of soil in there that's going to suck up quite a bit of water. I feel like a teacher with my pen. Okay, so before we go on, I did want to show you some other bare roots that I potted up earlier this year. And if you remember, is my clematis. So I planted up 3 varieties of clematis. The first one was Jackmani, and it's been up and growing for, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks at this point. It's doing really well. It's at the point where I really need to put some kind of like stake system in it here for it. And then the next one is Belle de Walking or Woking, and it's coming up really nicely as well. It's about a week behind. And then this one, Ernest Markham, doesn't look like much, but if I just gently move the soil, I can actually see the green sprouts trying to come up in it. And I'll hold it close so hopefully you guys can see. If not, it's totally fine too. But it is starting to come to the surface as well. So all 3 of these clematis made it. I'll allow them to grow inside a little bit longer, and then I'll begin shifting them outside, hardening them off so that I can get them planted. 2 of these are going in the new shade garden, and another one is going in a pot. Okay, but that is the process that I go about to get a jump start on my bare roots. Now, this is all based on my particular zone. Mine is zone 8. If you're a much colder zone, you can probably still go, as soon as you see the bare roots in the soil, you can go ahead and pull them and pot them up and start them inside. If you're going to plant bare roots directly outside, I always suggest waiting until you are past your last freeze of the year. And when I say freeze, I mean like a heavy freeze, because, the soil is going to be warmer than the ambient temperature, outside in the air. So if you're just hitting 30s and 32s, you're probably fine to go ahead and plant them inside. If you are still going to get below 25 for a significant amount of time, I would hold off and wait until it's a little bit warmer. For me, I'm a little bit more cautious, so I would not plant my bare roots outside until I was past my last freeze or frost date, which is March 15th. And if you don't know what your last expected freeze or frost date is, you can look it up on the website directly below. You plug in your zip code and it will tell you your zone and what your last expected frost and freeze date is. Okay, I hope you guys are excited. I am very excited to be starting 19 plants for the shade gardening for $30. That is absolutely amazing. It'll be really fun to follow this process, show you guys what all is happening and going on with them. I will definitely keep you updated whether they are successes or fails. The next round, I'm going to be doing another round of bare roots probably in the next couple of days, where I'm going to be starting a whole bunch of calla lilies, like a ton of calla lilies, because I bought some and then I also got some from my parents' backyard. They redid their landscape. And I'm also going to be starting some echinacea bare roots, and I'm going to be starting some Eryngium blue sea holly, or blue sea holly. I'm going to be starting those bare roots as well. I'm going to be following the same process, but all of these next round of flowers I'm going to be starting are all full sun blooms. All right, if you have had success with bare roots and you have any suggestions for us, make sure you drop that information below. Also, it's really important to put your zone. It's so important because what you're doing in zone 4 is completely different than zone 6, than zone 8, than zone 9. And I think that's always really important when you're watching anything going on YouTube gardeners. Make sure you're fully aware of their zone. I always try to put my zone at the very beginning of my videos so that you're aware that that's where I am, zone 8, which is going to have different conditions than zone 6. So anything that I'm teaching you, if you're a different zone than me, you got to take it with a little bit grain of salt, because you really need to think, if you are a colder zone, then you need to push back my schedule, back, a month or so, or a couple of months. If you're warmer like Florida is already like full bang, let's go. They've probably been planting up since January, or maybe they never even stopped planting. So it really depends on your area, what's going to work best regarding this advice that I pass on to you all. All right, you all, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you guys like and comment, it helps grow my channel. And if you're up for it and if you enjoy the video, be sure to share it to your social media page. And you can also check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.